ask questions. So feel free to so feel free to note down your questions if you have any. So like I said, welcome to the info session for teams that are looking to joining the SCF camp from the EMEA regions. It's going to be like a really quick one. We don't intend to keep you all here just hearing us talk. But the whole idea is that you get to meet us, the lead organizers of the camp, but also get a feel of what to expect from the camp and also hear from past participants, which they are already on the call. We have speakers already on the call, excited to hear their stories. And after that, we'll have a dedicated session for questions and answers. My name is Gift. I work at DFS Lab, and DFS Lab is an early stage investor that's supporting the most exciting startups building the future of digital commerce in Africa. Together with our active investment practice, we have a really strong research and consulting practice that works with clients like the Stellar Development Foundation to deliver innovation programs. This year, we are collaborating with the Stellar Development Foundation to implement this camp, this startup boot camp. And you will hear shortly from Anka, who works at Stellar, to get a feel of why we thought this boot camp was important. So Anka will talk a bit more about the foundation and a bit more about the community fund, and then we go right into talking about the boot camp. So over to you, Anka.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gift. Yeah, we've been indeed. My name is Anka Liu. I'm a senior program manager at the Stellar Development Foundation, and we are a nonprofit organization founded in 2014 to support the development and growth of the open source Stellar network, and now also Soroban. So Stellar is an open source blockchain layer 1 network that is designed to work for financial applications, payments, remittances, all sorts of financial applications. Now, since late last year, we've also launched our new native smart contracts platform called Soroban, which basically opens up the opportunities to build on Stellar by infinity. So very excited to work with the FS Lab on this startup camp. And we are doing this in relation to the Stellar Community Fund. So the Stellar Community Fund is a program I help manage along with the community, which is an open applications grant program to boost developments for startups and developer projects built on both Stellar and Soroban. So we manage the SCF as the SDF. I'm saying a lot of abbreviations today, so you'll have to get used to that, hopefully. But the SDF manages the SCF, the Stellar Community Fund, but it also really relies on community input for award allocation, feedback, structure discussions, and really support for projects itself. We have been around since 2016, along with SCF's predecessor, and since then we've awarded over 210 million XLM, which is Stellar's native currency. We've also 415 award recipients, and we've already done a few bootcamps with the FS Lab that were very successful in the past, where we supported over 50 bootcamp participants, and we have a growing community of over 2,600 members. So very excited to share this with you today. So just how you know this, how is the bootcamp and how does it work with the award program? Basically, SCF has two sub-programs that we call SCF Awards, which is where we with SCF Awards every 4 weeks, we developers and startup can request funding up to $150,000 worth of XLM. And just to note, XLM is Stellar's native currency. Really to accelerate development for their 3-month-long projects on either Stellar or Soroban. But kind of on the other side of the coin, we have the SCF Startup Camp, where every quarter the FS Lab and SDF will host a 5-day-long bootcamp to accelerate projects from ID all the way to MVP stage, with an investor demo day and excellent prizes for the finalists and winners. And this is really exciting for this startup camp. And I mentioned it's totally virtual. It's also global. We operate on 3 different time zones, and that's why all these info sessions, they were either on Asia Pacific time zones, which we had yesterday. Today, we cater to the Europe, Middle East, and Africa folks. In the next tomorrow, we'll cater to the America, like North America, Central America, and South America teams joining. So it's very exciting to work on these 3 time zones. It's definitely a little stressful for our team, but it's just very, because the audience that we want to serve is global. So we need to also have a global bootcamp. That said, it's only 5 days and it will connect startups building on Stellar and our Soroban, with members from the mentors from Stellar Development Foundation, DFS Lab, and the broader Stellar ecosystem and beyond, to these participating teams that will then define a problem, like storyboard a solution, and develop a user-validated prototype with support of these mentors. So very excited. Our first batch will happen in Q2 of 2023 on April 17th until the 21st. And let's say if you are one of the 10 finalists, you will also present in front of an investor audience on April 26th, which is the next week. So very exciting. I think I would really say this is an exclusive opportunity to get connected and really build a successful product on both of these exciting technologies. Over to you, Gift. I said way too much already.
It's fine, Anka. So just before we have our speakers who will come share their experience, just participating in the bootcamp, it'll be good to also give you like a sense of the model that we adopt while implementing the bootcamp, as opposed to the normal accelerator incubator model where you are already, where you see teams maybe participating in a long stretch for over 3 months just to come up with their MVP. We adopt another approach which involves using a design sprint process where you get to just spend 4 days or max 5 days just building, your ideas and taking it into a validated product. This design sprint model was developed by leaders at Google Ventures, and the idea is to just bring a small team together, 2 to 5 people in the team, where they just spend time taking the day-to-day activities, which you would eventually learn more about. But aside those activities, we've seen that with the design sprint model, you're able to just talk with your team members, the conversations that you don't necessarily have when you're trying to build but with the design sprints process, we get to see teams just working together and learning from each other as to how they can fast forward their product into the future. And yes, with the design sprint model, like I said, you definitely would come with an idea, and then within that 5 days, you're leaving with a validated product. We've seen this model work a lot. We've had instances where teams come back to us and say, oh, based on their activities, their eyes were open to maybe a pitfall that they've not figured out before, and it brought some sense of clarity, and I'm sure that when our speakers get to share their own experience, that you would learn more from that. So if we have our speakers on at the moment, if you can, please feel free to turn on your videos, and then we would just kickstart with the fireside chats where I get to ask you a bunch of questions. Hi, Javier, I see you're on already. Do I have Alphonse? Yes, I know Abigail had mentioned that she won't be able to turn on a video, but yeah, thank you guys for coming to share your experience. So the very first question I wanted to ask is, just tell us about yourself, your name, what you're building, the solutions that you're building, and then we'll start the conversation from there. So maybe Javier, you want to start first?
Okay, thank you. So thanks very much, guys, for inviting us. It's always a pleasure to meet the vibrant people from Stellar. My name is Javier Gutierrez. I'm co-founder and CEO at Brave Corp. We are a startup that was founded in 2019 in Spain. We are one of the proud winners of round 11 and one of the participants of the first section of the bootcamp. We ambition to make blockchain payments accessible at retail level, and we try to bridge the best of two worlds. We want to bridge the flexibility and freedom of cash together with the controls and conveniency digital payments. And we have created a payment platform for retailers built on Stellar that allow them to receive either fiat or crypto payments, even from Stellar and from other chains, and convert them straight into a Stellar USDC. So they can have access to this new economy, and they can have also the freedom to convert their digital assets back into fiat, to transfer to the bank account, withdraw them with MoneyGram, and so on. So and again, it's exciting to be here sharing our experience in the Stellar Development Fund.
Thank you so much, Javier. Over to you, Alphonse, and then maybe Abigail as well can introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alphonse. I am a software engineer from Kotanipe. As far as my experience with the bootcamp goes, it was a very exciting bootcamp, a bit intense, but we thoroughly enjoyed the entire experience. So far, Kotanipe has been able to do we've collected a bunch of learnings from the entire bootcamp experience. We've been able to create APIs that essentially allow people to cash in and cash out of Stellar USDC to fiat currencies in Kenya and Ghana. We're also working on our SMS wallet interface that will essentially allow normal users to basically access the Stellar blockchain without their need for an internet connection. So essentially, all they have to do is just dial the Kotanipe shortcode, and there they are. They can essentially create a Stellar wallet on the blockchain and store their digital assets like Stellar XLM and a USDC, all through a feature phone. So yeah, I think that pretty much summarizes a lot of our entire experience there.
Thank you. I don't know if Abigail is on the call as well. Maybe she would speak on another question. But Javier, Alphonse has gone ahead to share their team's experience in the bootcamp. It'd be interesting to know, or just to hear from you, what your own experience on that of your team was while you were participating during the bootcamp.
I think it was fantastic. It was a great experience. Everything was super well organized. It allowed us also to interact with other teams and started building a sort of community within the community that still lasts today. I would say that the bootcamp provided us three benefits to as a team. The first one, I believe that it enabled us to get a lot more strategic. Because we all know that launching a startup is really hard. You are always rushing. You are always building stuff. You're always like overwhelmed by the everyday routine and the things that you need to accomplish and do. And sometimes you just need to stop everything, put all these daily worries aside, and focus and start reflecting on things. And because sometimes you just take decisions and they are not properly thought through, and you probably take the wrong decisions, you make the wrong assumptions. And for us, the bootcamp was a good opportunity to get all the co-founders, all the technical team in one place, started to think strategically about what we were doing, not paying attention to the next sprint, but just getting everyone aligned and about the vision, the value proposition, the product market fit, all the different elements that are more strategic, are key to make a successful product or a company. The second one was probably to validate assumptions. Again, that it's easy to fall in love with your own ideas and you feel that, oh, this product is so great that it's going to sell for itself. But sometimes it's wrong. You need to just get outside this bubble of your own product and start asking questions and to yourself, and also presenting your idea in front of customers or potential customers and get their feedback. And I think the bootcamp was investigating or following that route as well, helping us to see whether the idea that we had was relevant to these audiences. And also, as you were mentioning before, it's so quick and so intense. I remember when I was a student, nothing made me more productive than the day before the exam. You know, the rush. And I think this is a bit of the atmosphere that was created through the bootcamp, because everything is condensed, it's very intense. So you have this pressure that you need to deliver in a quick time. And it also helped us develop our product. It doesn't matter that you are at the idea level, PowerPoint level, or you already have a product. For us, it helped us to develop a new feature in the product that we didn't thought that it was possible. But for some other people, it accelerates this, it makes you really productive, how you develop your product. So I think that these three things, thinking strategically, to validate your initial assumptions, and to grow your product are probably the key takeaways that I take after the bootcamp.
Thank you so much, Javier. You really shared like 3 succinct points that I think intending teams can also put in mind as they try to submit their applications and know what to expect. I already mentioned it before that the bootcamp is quite rigorous, but trust me, once you're able to commit yourself to the process, you would be amazed at what comes out at the end of the day. So one final question before we're done with the fireside chat, and then I see that we have some questions from the audience as well, and I'm also going to bring that up. But Alphonse and Abigail, could you please share with us any top tips you think intending teams should put in mind while they're, maybe sending in their applications, or if they eventually get selected? How should they make the most of the bootcamp?
Hi, Gifts. Apologies for my camera. So I'm Abigail. I am the digital marketing lead for Kotani. So in a nutshell, Kotani, what we do basically, we help users convert their digital assets in form of stable coins into local currencies. And currently we are live in Kenya, Ghana, and Zambia. So for this particular bootcamp, I will say for one, it was quite thorough and very intense for us. But it was such a good experience because for one, we managed to better understand our product. We are blockchain agnostic, meaning that we are open to many blockchain networks. So integrating with Stellar was also a new experience for us, understanding our product from that point of view, because even some of our users have a preference, and in this case will be Stellar. So if I was to talk to somebody who is thinking of joining this bootcamp, for one, you should join. I mean, let's start there. You should start joining. Make sure you register, do the work. Once you get in, the first thing will be like, just be very mentally prepared. As we have said and repeated, it's very intensive, it's very thorough, and it will need a lot of your engagement mentally. It will need a lot of your engagement. So when you get in, go all in. I mean, make sure you avail yourself both mentally and physically. Also, another tip will be for us, what worked for us in the design sprint. I think they will later on explain to you, but for us, what worked very well was for the sprint. For the sprint was asking the sprint questions. Like anytime we got stuck, we went back to the sprint questions, and they helped us even understand our buts. And then we could answer our how do we questions, and they will help us circle back around our solution. So we managed to maneuver around. Maybe probably you're going far ahead and get stuck. You go back to a sprint question, and it guides you back to the way home. Also, we have their mentors. Their mentors there for a reason. The bootcamp has mentors, and the mentors are there for a reason. So make sure you use these mentors. And anytime you get stuck, engage them, talk to them, start thinking solutions together. They are there for a reason. They have experience. They know their way around it. So engage your mentors. That's something that will work for you. And stay curious. I always say that stay curious on what others are building, support other people, vote for each other. I mean, that's the only way you can actually then get to know other people's product. And also, every time you engage in these conversations, you'll find synergy. Probably your solution works with somebody else's solution, and it will come in handy for you guys. And finally, as you said, to make it like for this to work, it's a lot of team effort. So you have to be very ready to engage with your team, to participate, to actively share your thoughts. We survive on each other's energy. So you might as well be all in and work together. Yes.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Thank you. That was really, while you were speaking, it just reminded me of those days where, we're working with the teams, and the teams that I was facilitating and mentoring, there were times that they got stuck, and it was good to just bounce off ideas together. Javier, could you please also share your top tips for intending teams who are looking to participate in at the bootcamp?
Okay, well, I would say that the first one is to have fun. right? Yeah, I think that everything has to be with the energy, and it was a super positive energy. Have fun. I mean, launching a startup or being in this intense situation sometimes can be stressful, but enjoy it. Remember once I had the opportunity to speak to Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders at Apple, and the guy was saying to me that even now that he's retired and he's missing these moments where they started in the garage. So I think that we need sometimes to live the moment and enjoy together with your team these difficulties of that you are shaping your value proposition, you're shaping your product, you don't see the light in the tunnel, but you are still there and building, and this is fun, and you need to enjoy that. The second thing is probably is one of the do's and don'ts that we learned from you guys when you told us about the bootcamp preparation. Is like try to abstract yourself from the outside world, your everyday problems. Book your time together with your team. It's going to be a lot more productive than if you are in the middle of different calls and you need to jump in and out. At least if you're trying to bring a team in, help them, leave them with no other outside distractions, because the things are gonna go a lot quicker. And last probably is about connections. I mean, don't consider your peers as competition, but think of them as peers that you can build a smaller community. They can give you help. Maybe in the future you're building something on Anchors and you will immediately think, oh, these guys know, and talk to these guys. They will give you tips. They will give you tips about legal, about entering a different market where you're planning to go. And if you build these connections, it's going to be great for all of you. I think that if you just do these three things and of course engage in all the exercises and follow the tips from the moderators, the team that is driving you through the process, it's going to be a great success for you guys.
Thank you, Javier. While you're still on, let's just go right into some of the questions that we've had from the audience. And this one is for you from Morgan. So over the 4 years since you've been in the industry, did you ever pivot? And how did your view of crypto value proposition change during that time?
Well, it's a great question. In fact, we pivoted back in 2019, back in 2021, when we discovered Stellar. Our initial solution was just an age verification solution, and we thought, oh, maybe this can be something bigger, can be a payment platform with age verification attached to it. So that was our first pivot. The reason why we did it is like it was based on customers, because an age verification solution is targeting a very specific market, which is big corporations, and it's very difficult to sell. The sales process for big corporations is really, really hard. And if we realize that going into a different customer, which is retail level, is probably easier. You will have probably more interactions, sales interactions with these customers. You might fail or not, but you're not losing a whole year trying to sign a big corporation, and in the end you don't reach any agreement. So yeah, we pivoted. In terms of the view of crypto, I think is always evolving in a way. I would say that if you look into what is your main target, initially you believe, and that goes with the validation that we were talking about before, until you visit your customers, you don't get their input of what is their big pain that they have sometimes, right? And sometimes you go to them thinking, hey, this is quick payments, you have quick payments here, or instant payments, or whatever, and probably it's not relevant for them. Probably the pain that they have is that they need to convert that quickly into cash somewhere, right? Just to put an example. So I think that in a sector like the crypto, where everything is evolving, regulations, the perception of the customers, you need to pay a lot of attention of what your customers or your prospects are telling you, and be able to adapt and shape your message depending on what they're demanding.
Thank you so much. Jane, I see your question, but I'm not so sure what exactly it is. So maybe you can restate the exact questions you want to ask with regards to the main problem, that you want Javier to speak on. So, but let me just go right into the next question while you put together your thoughts on that. So Gorge, a question for Abigail from Gorge. So Abigail, Gorge would like to know what stable coins Kotani Pay has worked with, and have you ever worked with a stable coin backed by an asset such as gold? So that's like a question for Kotani Pay for Abigail or Alphonse, any of you.
Okay. So far we have worked with USDC, USDT, and CUSD. Again, this is primarily based on the client's needs. So if we meet a client who has a preference probably for DAI, we will find a way. We actually do our own audit. We see if this is something that we can work with. And yes, but for now, what we have worked with is USDC, USDT, and CUSD, that is the sale of US dollar. For the second question, have we worked with a stable coin backed by an asset such as gold? I think I'll let Alphonse probably answer that. I do not have knowledge on that.
So for the second question, not to my knowledge, we have not worked with a stablecoin asset backed by gold. But then again, Kotani Pay is client driven. So whenever we have clients coming in and they want specific solutions, again, we take an audit at what we can do, and we find a middle ground and offer a solution to our clients.
Okay, thank you so much. We are running a bit out of time, but these are really interesting questions that I think we can just quickly touch on. So this for Alphonse, actually, how successful, so where exactly are you, Kotani Pay, operating in Kenya? And how successful has it been for you working with remote areas without signal? And have you found educating remote communities to start using digital currency?
Okay, those are very interesting questions. So for the first one, how successful has it been for us working with remote areas without signal? So we've run a few pilots with farmers. We've essentially provided a platform where they can purchase insurance through the blockchain. It was a successful pilot. I believe Abby can talk more about it. But yeah, we found very good success with these sorts of pilots. There was also another one called Sinchmula that Abby can also talk about. But yeah, we found a lot of success with giving access to farmers, giving farmers access to the blockchain using our technology stack. And also, how have you found it educating remote communities to start using digital currency? So as far as that goes, I think we build our solution based on our user demands. It's very difficult to teach people stuff about stablecoins, especially people coming from rural areas. It's very difficult to educate them about this sort of thing. But what we try to do is we build the application in such a way that you don't have to think about the blockchain. The blockchain, you let us handle the blockchain, the heavy lifting. So our UI UX is for the typical farmer or for the typical rural user. So we make it as simple as possible, and we simplify the process in such a way that they don't have to understand the blockchain. They just use it and it works.
Right.
So let me just, Alphonse is more of a tech, so it's kind of my domain. So for the remote communities, based on, we have one of the use cases that we have is universal basic income, that is providing UBI to communities in Kenya and Ghana. So it could be refugee communities, it could just be a local community. So how we found in such, like educating such communities, or even we have worked even with Maasai's in Nanyuki County, that is just a county in Kenya. And Maasai's, you can imagine, these are people who live in the most remote, they are a marginalized kind of group. So how we approach it is, right now in Kenya, if you think about it, mobile money is something that is very familiar. So even when you're approaching them, sharing information or sharing knowledge about digital assets, you have to come from a point of known to a point of unknown. So you come from what they are familiar with, and in this case is mobile money. How they understand mobile money works, how it works, it's the same way you can maneuver around so that you can teach them about digital assets. But this is what we believe as Kotani Pay. Like, our technology has to be so smooth and seamless that even the person using it does not even know that they're using blockchain. it's not powered by blockchain. So by the mere fact that they're taking their feature phone and dialing a Kotani Pay code and they can access money, the back, everything about blockchain and how the money comes and everything, that is information that is only relevant if they ask. But it needs to be very seamless, that there will be no problem for them to, because these are people who even have basic literacy is that problem. So you need to make such information so smooth for them, very seamless to them. So, and in terms of how successful has it been for working with remote areas without signal? Again, remember USSD is an SMS-based solution. So this is just dialing a code. The same way, like in Kenya, you can check your mobile credit. You dial a code, *144#. So you don't require internet for it. You don't require internet for it. So in this case, when you dial this particular code, you will only probably require a 1 shilling, probably kind of charge that to access the service. So in remote areas, as long as there is a network signal, as long as they have a network signal, they are very capable of receiving this particular technology and solution.
Thank you so much, Abigail. I see that there's a lot of energy even in the chat from Jane, and I guess maybe it'd be good for you guys to like drop your Twitter handles where maybe teams can reach out to maybe have one-on-one conversations with. I see Jane is also trying to get you guys a coffee date to talk more, so please feel free to like share where they can find you. Guys, this is where we're going to like close the curtain for this fireside chat. Thank you so much, Javier and Alphonse and Abigail, for sharing. We really do appreciate your time. And we hope that for all of the insights that you've shared, we hope that the intending teams looking at joining the camp can pick 1 or 2 things to help them maximize their experience at the bootcamp. Thank you so much, guys. Right. Right. So I'm just going to go right into talking about what to expect at the bootcamp. I've spoken a bit about the design sprint process. So for the bootcamp itself, for each day, there are dedicated activities that has been apportioned for teams to go through, and my colleague Joy will talk more into that. But the other sweet spots that we found out as things that participants can really lean on are the workshops and office hours and the mentorship. You heard Abigail share, how it's important to milk just having a mentor and having them to bounce ideas with you. So you be sure to have, that community of mentors who are there to support you in your journey. And of course, after the first 4 days in the boot camp, the very 5th day for this particular bootcamp is what we call the community demo, where you get to pitch or share your demo videos to the wider Stellar community. And then from that, the top 10 finalists get to eventually pitch before an investor jury. And at the end of the day, there are awards and prizes for the top 3 participants. I know that with awards and prizes, it almost wants to look like, oh, can you be the best team? But Javier said something really important that I think I should reiterate, that you should also see the bootcamp as not just an opportunity to compete and win awards and prizes, but to see the bootcamp to connect with, other teams and see what areas of collaboration or future, connections that you can explore. So the bootcamp schedule and the design sprint activities is just like a rundown from day 1 to day 5. Each days have dedicated activities. Day 1, you're defining your problems, forming ideas, and mapping out a customer journey. In day 2, you get to really focus on the solution, decide what solution has a wider success. And then in day 3, you're creating your storyboard and then prototyping what that solution would look like. But actually, day 4 is where you get to just focus on testing out that solution by reaching out to real life users, and then you get feedback and eventually get to implement on that feedback. And day 5 is where you get to participate at the community demo day, and if you get to be the top 10 finalists, you also participate at the investor demo day. So I'll leave it up to my colleague now to speak on some of the day 1 sprint activities that's really just around defining your problem. Over to you, Joy.
Yeah, thanks, Gift. Hi, guys. So typically, we like to go over, just a few of these activities, kind of to prepare participants, and also like encourage people to like, kind of apply for the bootcamp, because these are like really kind of interesting areas, and it was great that I think it was Abigail also that spoke about some of these, and how helpful they were to the team. So, and another thing is we find that again, these are like some of the first activities you do, and we find that teams that kind of start thinking about this before the day one of the bootcamp have less of a hard time kind of going through the bootcamp. They don't have to struggle that much. You still have to do a lot of work, but then this makes it a lot easier. It's basically the foundation for like the rest of the week, once you start out with this. So the first thing, your long-term goals, your metrics, and your sprint questions. So long-term goal, just the way it says on the slide, is very optimistic long-term view. If we are successful over the next 5 to 10 years, what does that mean? What does it look like for our product or what we've built? All right. So what's the most optimistic thing? And the way we've had like some of the teams. So there's an example here where we've had some of the teams say, "Oh, our goal is to, provide value across a large, kind of geographic area." And I think this example says, okay, yeah, so move value across LATAM for businesses, make the world borderless at maximum value. And you can already see that that's very optimistic, right? It's like, over the next couple of years, this is what success will look like. And a way to measure that goal. So you want to put, numbers and probably a time limit to that goal. And that's what you do with your metrics. And what you have here for this example is direct metric is to reach 6 million businesses and move $5 billion USD annually, right? And so it's like, so success is going to be, being able to provide, value to businesses in the LATAM region. And then, we'll measure this when we'll say we're successful when we've reached 6 million businesses and, these businesses are transacting around $5 billion annually. So you can kind of have a sense of like, how that prepares you. It's like, okay, this is a very huge goal. This is how we're going to achieve it. This is what success looks like. And then you go on to your sprint questions. The sprint question is almost like the opposite of your long-term goal. It's what can go wrong, right? What can stop us from reaching our long-term goal? And that's where you start to like really, really, think deeply, right? And this is one of the reasons why we encourage people to, come with a dedicated team, have everyone around, because you get different ideas from like different people on the team. And then, there are all these questions that one person wasn't probably thinking of that someone else is thinking of. So like an example for these guys is, how do we make the users feel secure, which is like a big deal, like around, if you're helping people move money, if you're helping businesses move money, a lot can go wrong on the security side. So how do we build trust with these users? How do we move faster with regulation? Like, as long as you're dealing with, inflow and outflow of cash, you have to be compliant as regards regulations. And that's one of the toughest things for many businesses in this space. So it's like, how do we think about this? And so you have all those questions come up. Now you see like, oh, they'll probably hamper your long-term goal. And what you see here, the dots you see here are team members voting on what they should focus on, right? So of course you have, technically you have 3 days, right? And in those 3 days, you can't solve all your problems. So it's like, okay, so we need to decide what's the most important thing to focus on? We have all these questions, but let's vote amongst all of ourselves and then decide on what the most important things to work on are. So some teams pick one because that one is like big enough. Some teams go on to pick maybe like 2 or 3, but then that's like the entire focus of like, you know, the program all through that 3 days. You're just working to make sure like you're able to answer the sprint questions and see how they tie into your long-term goal. And then the next activity is around mapping. So now that you know your long-term goal, you know your metrics, you know your sprint questions, how do you move, you know, from one point to the other point? And it's normally through, you know, looking at the flow of your user. So you're basically, along with your teammates, saying, okay, we're going to start from this point, or our user is going to start from this point, and this is where it ends. This is what success looks like for our user, for, you know, whatever the flow is. And so you're now looking at the key interactions in between the beginning of the journey and the end of the journey. We try to push things to make sure like the steps are not too much, you know, 3 to 5 steps. And this is like Brave's mapping. And so they had one for the customer and one for the store. And it's interesting because I think I worked with the Brave team. I was like the facilitator for the Brave team during the event. And it's like Javier said, you need everyone to be fully, you know, kind of involved in this. You can't be doing other things because these are like really key. And so you come up with this map, and your sprint questions the sprint questions you've decided on kind of have an impact on what this journey looks like. And then you go on from this to now have your how might ways, right? So you like, okay, so these are the key steps. These are the questions we had from, you know, thinking of our sprint questions. For each of these steps, how might we solve that problem that came up that we thought about, right? So in the case of Brave Pay, it was, you know, how might we make sure that the retailer selects the right network? In the case of the customer, how do we create the relevant QR from the address of the store? How do we make sure we apply the right fees? So these questions start coming up, you know, based on this journey you've come up with, right? And again, this helps you define, you basically start building off of, you know, of this. And so these activities, we really like to push them early on to make sure, like, even before, we notice that many teams struggle, you know, day one, they struggle, you know, with answering these questions or thinking of these things. And that's mainly because prior to the start of the camp, they didn't, you know, take some time to understand what this, you know, how to work around these problems, what these activities are. And so we push this so that you can dive into this, and then by the time you start, you know, the boot camp, you're almost ready. A lot of things will surprise you as you work with your team and ask questions and try to think through the solutions. But then you would have a solid base for you to start out. So yeah, those are like the, you know, two key, you know, some of the 2 key activities. There are a lot of other activities that are also like, again, need your team members to be very involved. And, you know, I think it's always a rewarding experience for every team. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Joy. So now you've had stories from past participants. You've had a sense of, you know, the number of days that are expected from you to come into the bootcamp. So what are some of the other benefits of just participating? So we had mentioned earlier about the top 10 finalists getting to meet potential investors at Investor Demo Day. But the interesting thing is not just being able to, you know, pitch live at the Investor Demo Day, you also get to get featured, you know, on SCF founder stories. And eventually you get to know why this is important, because I'll get to share more success stories that we've seen in participants who have passed through our bootcamp, and I'll get right into that just a minute. But other benefits that you can also, get out from participating is just being a part of the wider community. The camp itself will be hosted on SCF Discord, so by being on that Discord community, you're literally, part of the SCF community. So that gives you room to bounce off ideas even after the bootcamp, meet other founders within the community that are building amazing stuff and trying to make life, easy for other people. The other benefit, of course, is, well, if you get to, be part of the top 10 finalists that pitch at Investor Demo Day, you get to be part of the top 3 teams that goes home with prizes up to 15,000 worth of XLM. So yes, more success stories. In the past, we've had these companies go through the bootcamp, Funbox, Tax, Wirecash, and Unchain. And these teams have either gotten grants from SCF or some Stellar Development Foundation, or they've participated in the bootcamp, got the initial award, but also being a part of the wider SCF community has exposed them into future or other opportunities. Like Stax, for example, when Stax participated in the bootcamp, they got an initial award of 15,000 worth of XLM. But by virtue of just being a part of the community and also constantly growing and exploring new ways to, make use of the Stellar network, they got to receive the 500,000 worth of XLM just to expand on the solutions that they are building. And that award was gotten from the Stellar Matching Fund. Wirecash participated in the last bootcamp and they got, awarded 100,000 worth of XLM through the Stellar Community Fund awards that Anka mentioned. And even BravePay, Javia, Kotani Pay, the guys who came to share their stories, they're also part of the awards. They also received awards from the Stellar Community Fund. This is just to say that the bootcamp itself will give you like a really good base in building your solution, but it doesn't end there. You get the opportunity to also get the SCF awards, so long as you're able to like apply for it and also prove to the community why you need that support to scale your idea. So this is where we get to stop talking and actually give room for you guys to ask questions. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute your mic or raise your hand and then ask the questions, and then we can respond to it.
So we can ask some questions directly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jean. I'm French and also Randy is Kenyan. And the things I was guessing is like, if I want to join the bootcamp, what I need to prepare? Did I need to have a project or send a pitch deck or something similar?
Good question. So ideally for teams that we've seen that have signed up for the boot camps, sometimes they do have like an idea that they want to implement. Other times they're not yet sure of what exactly they want to build. So that's why the bootcamp is really that platform where you can actually come and just, test out the idea that you have or the assumption that you have of a project you want to implement, and then commit yourself to that process to actually coming out with a validated product. So to answer your question in plain terms, it's good if you have an existing idea, but if you don't have one, the bootcamp, by just working together with your facilitator and going through the exercises, it will also give a very good opportunity to refine any assumptions or any project that you want to work on. And you don't necessarily have to have a pitch deck in quotes. Anka already shared the link where you get to apply. There's just a bunch of questions there that you respond to, and then that's it basically.
And so I think if it's possible maybe to send a pitch deck and also have some help during the bootcamp for learning the pathway to improve with Stellar, and also to see if your projects sit well with blockchain, maybe.
Eventually, the bootcamp helps with that, yeah. But the very first step in participating in the bootcamp is actually to apply. So if you just follow that link that Anka has shared, you will definitely see the questions. So you don't necessarily have to have like a one pitch deck and then you submit just to participate in the bootcamp. The questions in itself in that application process will help you to know, okay, what is required? Are you going to be coming to the bootcamp with other team members? Where are you currently based? Just some really basic information and maybe just to learn more about what you want to build, if that's something that you want to test out in during the bootcamp. So that's just to say that the application process isn't complex where you have to put together like a pitch deck and then submit. You just have to respond to the questions and then get a chance to participate if selected. I hope that answers your question, John.
Yes, thank you. And maybe I have a last one question if it's possible. My last one is more about the community. And first of all, I want to thank everyone here for your great testimony. And also the one things I want to know is if it's possible to have a database where I can reach up the member of the community and together share knowledge and feedback and also know the best advice they can provide and how to not face the same mistake and also improve together.
Yes. Maybe Anka can help with a link to the Stellar Discord, the SCF Discord that has like where all the community members sit. I'm sure she's going to put that link on the chat box. So when she does, feel free to join the Discord community and then introduce yourself. There are like channels on the Discord community where you can introduce yourself. And if you have any questions, even before the bootcamp, you can ask questions and community members themselves would also respond to that.
Yeah, I'm just indeed I'm pasting a link to the so actually we have recently moved to the Stellar Developers Discord, and the category is called Community Fund, and this is also where we will hold the boot camp, but that will be like a separate category in the actual Discord. So I just put it here. This is the Stellar Developers community, which has all sorts of channels that you can opt into, such as smart contracts, SDKs and whatnot. But the Community Fund one is the one that you need to look at because that's where our community will live. Yes.
Thank you so much, Anka. John, thank you so much for asking your questions. Is there any other question that any other person would like to ask?
Hi, it's Gurj.
Hi, Gurj.
Could you mentioned several people from your project could come on board. Is there an issue if other people are in different time zones?
Very good question. That's a very good question, Gurj, and thank you for bringing that up. So the SCF Startup Camp itself will be happening across 3 major time zones. We've had instances where a team could have different members in different time zones. What can help is that you communicate to us, your team members that are in what time zones. So it helps us to know how to match you guys with a facilitator or a mentor. So it's definitely not a problem. What we just need is that information, and it's part of the information that will be requested as well while you're applying for the bootcamp. So it helps us at the back end to see, okay, this team, for example, has like different team members in different time zones. Which facilitator can we match them with? Another good thing is with the bootcamp, we have a dedicated platform on Gitbook where you get to actually see these activities before the bootcamp. So your team can actually start preparing and just learning and watching the videos. So the job of the facilitator is just to even nudge you and see where there are blockers and then support you in that journey. So it's definitely not a problem if you have like your team members in different time zones. We've had instances like that and we've made it work. Just communicate to us and then we'll see what's possible.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other question, guys?
Yeah, I have a quick question, if I may.
Okay, Nick. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Nick. I am actually part of a DAO that incubates Web3 projects, and we have a few projects actually that we think might be a good fit for Stellar. So my question is essentially, how do we narrow down which idea would be the most attractive for the program, or yeah, how do I do that?
So I'll leave this question for either Anka or Joy to respond to it. I have my own response, but I want them to also feed into this important question that you've asked.
Yeah, I can certainly I could ask. I would like to ask another question. So the DAO, is it incubating like different like kind of like projects like companies, or like do you as a DAO have like would you apply as a DAO, or would these companies projects apply? That's my question.
So we usually apply as a DAO, as the builders, to an organization or a company that needs something to be built. And then I mean, in the past, we've applied for grants and then funded the projects from the grants. So that's our primary method, but we've also, we'd like to get into more long-term projects that have a sustainable revenue. And in order to do that, we would need daughter companies and investment opportunities for that. So that is something we're interested in getting into. At the moment, we operate primarily off of grants, so seeking out specific outcomes that other organizations would like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like I would definitely recommend to like focus on like the one particular use case that might be of most impact and interest to your team, right? Instead of like applying with many different things, because like basically like we allow only like one team to apply like per time, just because I guess if it depends, if it are like different people, I think that you could see that as different like type of projects. But if it's going to be the same people, then I would definitely just focus on one particular use case. And actually, if you go to, so if there is a focus, there's certainly a focus. So if you go to communityfund.stellar.org, there's actually a list of like exciting projects. As I mentioned, right now we are onboarding kind of like really like all of the DeFi and all of the projects that you can build on Sorbonne, which is our new native smart contracts platform. So any like if you see like at other ecosystem smart contract ecosystems, like what their successful projects have been, they all need to be built on Sorbonne as well, and really to build out the Sorbonne ecosystem. So if that gives you some direction, we do have some use cases that we find really important on sorbonne.stellar.org. But it's pretty much a greenfield of opportunities right now in terms of Sorbonne project building. So yeah, does that help answer your question? And happy to like Joey and Gift if you want to add on that from your perspective.
Thanks. So definitely, I would advise that you focus on that project that you think has the potential to scale. Also, because in the past we've seen instances where a team that's maybe they're not yet coordinated on what exactly they want to do. As much as we have that support system, it helps that the team has like maybe not a clear cut, but a sense of direction of the project they want to focus on, so they don't, stay back. Sometimes we even tell the team, if you're unable to finish a particular activity because you have so many ideas, don't spend so much time on those many ideas. Try to pick one idea and then run with it. The good thing about the model, the design sprint model, is you can eventually go back to iterate on that idea. So the simplest answer is try to focus on. With you have like a bunch of communities as well that you're supporting. So with you, it'd be good to just focus on a product that you think has that potential to scale, especially on the Stellar network. Yes. Any other question, guys? I'm trying to see the chat to see if there's any other question from anybody.
Yeah, also have a question.
You're welcome, Nick. Okay.
About actual project. So,
okay.
Would you advise us to contribute our project to Git repositories, because we are trying to make a useful tool for developers on the Soroban. And is there any way to contribute our tool after the SCF towards the Git of the Stellar community?
Yeah, and I can definitely help with that question. So I think, like, Igor, you were part of the last boot camp, right, with no code wallet.
Yes, so I think I should explain it a bit. We encountered an issue that Archel have to storage the state of the transaction, and we are using now relational database, and this is extremely expensive solution. So what we're trying to do, we want to use Soroban smart contracts for storing state data. I believe this is a problem which many developers encountered, and as a tool, it will be extremely helpful for everybody in the community.
Yeah, I think actually this is a question, please reach out in the Stellar Developers Discord, and I actually put the link there. I think you should be already in it, but basically we have actually moved it over to there, and then you can discuss in there, and then we can, because we are indeed would love to help you out with some specific questions regarding Soroban, but also we are definitely putting together a list of resources, and would love to see and definitely would love to see if anyone is interested in using your tool as well and give feedback on it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I will look into Discord server later after the Zoom.
Yeah, it's the Stellar Developers Discord, because we just moved to the SCF Discord. That should work. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Is there any other person that would like to ask a question? We still have some minutes to respond to questions. Okay. Someone wanted to say something? Okay, great. In the absence of any other questions, so what are the next steps? We usually recommend that you read more about the Stellar Community Fund if you haven't already. Some of the questions that might eventually you will definitely be answered in the resources that are made available with it. There's a particular so it'd be good to just go into that rabbit hole just to learn more about the SCF fund. And of course, apply before the deadline, which is March 20th. We would, after the info sessions, we were planning to be that nudge and that reminder to you guys to send in your applications. What would help if you can actually submit before the actual deadline, so we can take time to actually review your applications. But ensure that you put in an application. Abigail said something, that the very first step is applying. So no matter how you have that maybe doubt of if you're going to make it in or not, just apply. You never can tell, right? Let's be the judge to know if you should come in or not. And then when you do get selected to participate, we recommend that you give it your very best, and fingers crossed, we'll see you at the other end when you eventually get selected. So Anka, I don't know if you have any last words before we call it a day.
And maybe a last word. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No
I was just quite curious. It's at the end of the bootcamp, what kind of product the participant gonna provide? A slide, a short MVP. I'm just more curious about the technical aspect and also the functional aspect.
Very good question. So two things. Part of the things each teams are going to be doing in this bootcamp is to actually document their use cases. So for the idea or the project you're working on, we're definitely going to support you guys on creating that use case document. But at the end of the day, the design of the bootcamp itself is that you are ending the bootcamp with an actual validated product. So it could be like an app, or, because we dedicate day 4 to prototyping. So you're actually going to get your hands dirty by, prototyping this idea that you've had in the past 3 years to actually a product, and testing it out with users. So at the end of the bootcamp, it's expected that you have an MVP at the end of the bootcamp. Does that answer your question, John?
Okay, you say we are supposed on the end of the bootcamp to have MVP. Is it possible? Maybe you have already told me. Is it possible to tell me how much long the bootcamp is?
Bootcamp is. I can hear you. Sorry.
So the bootcamp is almost 5 days or more than it?
The bootcamp is 5 days, from Monday to Friday, 17th to 21st of April.
Okay, so in 5 days we have to. Okay, nice, quite lovely. Okay, I will try to do my best.
Yes, and that's why I said earlier, like, I know you probably used to like the traditional incubation model where you're spending like weeks just trying to come up with an MVP. But with this design sprint process, it can sound weird actually, but you definitely will come out with an MVP in just 5 days. The activities that are put together, the support and everything helps to create that, energy and environment for you to actually committing to building an MVP. So definitely within the 5 days, you get to build an MVP. So long as you stay committed anyways to the process. Daniel, yes, I see you have your hands up.
Hi everyone. For me, I have about 2 questions. One is we have a product in the market, but we have to approach. We want to venture into the field. The question is, will we be getting like the aspect of support when it comes to developer? My team does not have anyone with the blockchain or the stellar knowledge of how they can go about it, but we want to integrate it to our wallet and also our referral system. But we have all the holding plan, but now the skill-wise is where we have an issue.
Very important question. So in the past, just to give you a context, in the past, we've had teams that they don't know, what the Stellar network or what the Stellar technology offers. And at the end of the day, they just listening to the experts and the engineers from the Stellar Development Foundation, and also there's like a bank of resources that's available there to just learn more about the Stellar network. This is just to say that you would definitely have that support and that technical support, let me put it that way, that technical support in helping your team to learn more about the Stellar network. So it's not a barrier. I mean, the bootcamp was actually created for teams like you that don't have the full knowledge of the Stellar network, but have the potential to use the network to scale the product or the services that they are offering. So that's not a barrier at all. We're definitely having technical experts. And the good thing is we would also have like one-on-one sessions where you can actually speak with someone who is an expert in knowledge and experience in the Stellar network, to just bounce off ideas with them and also support you while you're trying to build on Stellar. So that's not a barrier at all. I hope that answers your question. John, your question on the chat, do you need a team? So typically we recommend that you join the bootcamp with a team. So at least 2 to 5 members should make a team. But there are instances where we've had a one-man team, but with having just a team with one team member shows that you as that individual, you have to put so much effort in ensuring that you work together with your facilitator to actually stay true to the activities. So feel free to apply if you are just a one-man team. We will try to make room, especially if you get selected into the bootcamp. But ideally, the design sprint itself is the activities is expected that your team should have at least 2 to 5 team members.
Okay, I will try
Thanks,
to do my best.
Anka. Okay. Anka just posted links to get familiar with Stella and Sorobon. This especially for teams who, just like Daniel asked, if you don't have any idea of what Stella or Sorobon is like, as you're applying for the bootcamp, also take some time to read through the resources and just to learn more. Yeah. Alrighty, I guess that's it. Anka, do you have any any last words before we call it a day?
Not really. I feel like we covered a lot. Thank you so much to you, Gift, and to Joseph for explaining the bootcamp, and also thank you for everyone for coming and asking these insightful questions, and obviously to our guest speakers who were able to share some of their experience as well. So thanks so much, and yeah, let us know if you have any questions. Definitely take a look at Stellar Community Fund, Stellar, and Sorobon all, and yeah, definitely submit. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.